hello, and welcome
Hi,
back.
how's
Hello.
it going?
This is episode 3 of Each Other's
Episode
Soulmate.
3.
We are
We
back.
are
We made
doing,
it.
yeah, we're doing episode 3, Bay of Married Pigs.
Yes, so season 1, episode 3 is called Bay of Married Pigs. Once again, we are each other's soulmate. We are two broads talking about our 4 favorite broads in New York City. So let's get right into it this time. Why don't
Yeah,
we? Let's go.
yeah. Okay, so when we start off the episode, we are in the house of Patience and Peter. These are two friends of Carrie's, and in this episode, we're really kind of discussing the dynamic between single people and married people, which we can talk about
That's the
well,
big theme.
especially as friends. Yeah. There's a lot of themes that we're going to talk about that, some are like a little outdated, some are pretty relevant still. But the first thing that we kind of go over is this like expectation when you go hang out with as a single person, when you go hang out with your
Right.
married friend. Carrie talks about like singing for your dinner. So it's this
So
idea that like, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. So so how we intro it is Carrie's visiting her married couple friend in the Hamptons. She goes to stay with them. That's Patience and Peter. She's going to go stay for the weekend. This is how we're introed into this scene. And so we go to them talking, and she feels the need to say, "Oh, hey, here's all of my conquest in the past couple of weeks." And this is where we get into that theme of she feels like she has to, what was it you say, what did she quote,
Sing for her supper.
sing for her supper, saying like this is what we
Yeah.
do. Like what did she uses examples like, oh, if you're an accountant they're going to use you for your, for that. Oh, if you're a
Financial
lawyer,
advice, or
a
if you're a
financial
lawyer, they're
advisor.
going to use legal advice from you. But if you're
Right.
a single friend, they're going to listen to your conquest to kind of like spice up their little love
Or
life
live vicariously through
vicariously
their
through
single
you.
friend. So
Yes.
that's how we open
So
up to them. They're talking, they have a great conversation. You see Patience and Peter kind of like looking
being all
real
like interested
excited.
in her little
They're like,
single
ooh,
escapades
please tell me more. So
and what you do next.
yeah.
But then the next morning, Carrie wakes up and Patience is at the store. She's going to go get muffins and breakfast. And when Carrie walks to the hallway to go to the restroom, she finds Peter standing there drinking a cup of coffee without pants on. Just
Just pantsless.
full frontal nude.
Full frontal
And
nudity.
Carrie is alone in this house with this man who's just like, how's it going? You know?
Yeah. No
No,
no qualms from Peter. He's just like,
no
hey, good morning.
embarrassment and no
None.
remorse.
Yeah.
But his
Patience is out getting us
penis is
breakfast. No
out.
biggie.
Like
Completely.
it's
Yeah.
it's
There's
super
in the
weird.
hall.
And he doesn't say anything about it. So then they pan to the next scene when Patience gets home, and pretty much the first thing out of Carrie's mouth is like, "This just happened." And rather than any kind of like communication of any sort, that's like, no, Carrie gets kicked out of the house.
So
Like,
so so
yeah.
Carrie says, "Oh, I ran into Peter in the hallway. And he was naked." And then
Yeah.
Patience goes, "Did Carrie see your dick in the hall?" That's how that's how she describes it. And he's like, "Oh yeah,
He's
haha, I was running to the bathroom, no biggie." No, and then Patience is mortified. Carrie then goes, "So what are we doing today?" And she's
and
like,
then she
she
gets
couldn't
thrown
get
on a
me out of
bus.
there. Yeah, they're like, she couldn't kick me out sooner. So that's how we're introed into the episode. That's kind
Yeah.
of what
It's
starts our theme of the episode. It
very,
is quite hilarious. Oh, the funniest
yeah.
part about this scene, though, is that Carrie goes, "Oh, and might I say, congrats."
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
So, what I wanted to say, though, is what
like,
would you do vice versa? So, if you were Carrie and if you were Patience, how would you feel if that happened to you? Like, okay, so if you were Carrie, how would you feel?
I would have been more angry. about the situation personally.
Like directly to Peter?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I would have definitely been like, "What the F are you doing right now?" Like, bro, like,
What is
and then I don't
happening?
I wouldn't have treated it like a not big deal, like it was just like a funny thing that
Mm-hmm.
happened. I would have been upset when telling my friend about it because I do kind of think that the lightheartedness of it is partly what upset patients and like trying
Right.
to like make light of it because like I, I don't even know what I would do if I found out that my husband did that.
Yeah,
I
that's
I
what I
don't
was kind of thinking. I was like, I don't know
like
if I was in the same. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. And this is all right. Everyone's different. But me as a nurse, and if I saw someone naked, my first kind of thought is never really like sexual. But that's just me because I'm just like,
yeah.
I'd be like, why are your pants off? Are you like? I'd be like, are you like
I
post
mean,
ictal? Like, do I need to take you to the ER? Like, is something go like? Are you having a TIA? Because I need to take you somewhere. Like if I saw Lex
gosh,
pantsless at your apartment, I'd just be like, "Are you, something's going on? I'm calling
yeah,
911." First of all, if he was just drinking a cup of coffee and being like, "Oh, Christina's walking shush," I'd be like, "No, is she?
yeah, no, no, yeah,
What is happening?" I don't know.
yeah,
It's just so wild. It's so wild to think of that like truly happening, you know?
but like, my question is like, do you think he was trying to have sex with her?
I don't
Like, do
think
you think
so.
it was like, do you really think it was like,
I think it was so we pan to the next frame or the next scene,
yeah,
which is the girls. So all four girls, Charlotte, Miranda, Sam, and Carrie talking at a restaurant, and Carrie then tells tells the story of what happens, and Carrie's like, "Why did he do that?" And Samantha goes, "I think he just wanted to show it off. He's married. He doesn't
like a
get anything
monkey?
other than his wife, like a monkey. Like he was just kind of like, oh, let's see if I still, let me just throw it out there. Fuck
And
it, why not?" I that's honestly
yeah,
I think would be my explanation of just like, oh, it's just like, oh, oopsie, like I'd sleep like this every night, so like the fact, you're the guest, oops, I totally forgot, my routine may be like weird to a guest. That's what I thought. Who
mm-hmm.
knows? Because he didn't make any sexual advances. He was just like, she'll be back, bye.
That was like another thing. If you kind of like look at his face while she's getting mad, like his wife, Peter's just kind of like he
The whole
never
time.
stops, like he never shows any remorse or
No,
anything.
every time we see Peter in this episode, he is giddy,
He's just like,
as happy as a clam. He's just there. He is
yeah,
having a grand old time. I wonder why though,
but
because we then Samantha, I think Samantha asked Carrie like, "Well, how big was it?" In typical Samantha. And at the time, there's the waiters coming up in fresh pepper, ma'am.
the
So we have a
yeah,
traditional
the fresh
pepper mill, like
pepper.
an old school pepper mill. And Carrie just kind of mentions to that, and she's like, "Mm." So that's
Maybe
our
that's
reference
why.
for the size of Peter, which is why I think he's a little giddy all the time. He's probably excited,
Yeah,
He's like, let me show this off to someone who's not my wife. Maybe I miss doing that.
wild,
Anyway, so that's
wild.
what happens. But during this discussion, they do say, this is our dynamic, right? We're four single women, you know, married people are always threatened, or married women are threatened by us. They think we're going to want to sleep with their husbands and blah blah blah. And Charlotte's over here like, oh my god, I could never. And Samantha's like, what makes you think you have it? Wedding rings do come off. And that poses that too. It's like, like infidelity and stuff too. We don't, that's a whole other thing. And that's what they're talking about, is like this fear of, married women fearing their husbands, sleeping around and
Sleeping
stuff.
around.
Right.
Yeah.
With single
They also
women.
kind of
So,
mention like to married women, they either fear single women or they pity them. They put them in
right.
two
That's
categories.
that's what they give us
Um,
as far as categories.
yeah, 'cause it's like a fear of like you're gonna have sex with their husband, or a pity that like
Oh, it's like,
you are
oh, you're
still
still
single. Oh
single.
no, you'll
How
find one.
terrible.
Like
So
all of
they
that
then go
shit.
into interviews, like the interview style that we've
Mhm.
been seeing, and they interview random people. These aren't people we really have seen
Ever see
before.
again.
We have
Yeah.
someone we have a couple there, and the woman saying like, oh, I can't be around single people anymore, like it just reminds me of a time I was so desperate, and it's just so sad, and I just can't do it anymore.
I don't I feel like you would only feel like that if your only like vendetta was to go be married. Like if
Right,
you
it
had other
feels
things, anything going on in your life, like a career or a hobby
right. What a
or literally
strange take.
anything.
Oh, it just reminds
Yeah,
me of when I was desperate. I'm like,
how
so
desperate I was. Like,
other people can't be
so
single, like that you they have to be miserable
yeah,
because they're single,
yeah,
but then
and
again, we're talking about like a this is back then, this is maybe
mhm.
a view that was more commonly, felt.
Well, back then too, it was like much more financially tied to your situation, right? Like
Yeah,
to have like a man there because of like opportunities you wouldn't be able to have access to as a single woman.
yeah,
But like it was just the beginning of the equality.
yeah.
But
We're just kind of doing that, and then we have a woman who goes, oh well, every time a woman gets married, then it turns that she loses all of her identity because it then becomes, instead
yeah,
of me, it
I
becomes
becomes
we.
we.
I becomes
Yeah.
we, and she talks about that, which is true to an extent. I don't think women lose their identity, but you do. I think. Well, you're the one who's married, so I think you
Yeah.
can attest
'Cause
to that. There's some
yeah,
truth to that
you
statement.
definitely when you're married, you have everything you do, you have to consider the other person. Unlike before you're married, like you can make like I don't want to say even selfish because I don't think that's the right word, but you
Hmm.
can make decisions where you put yourself first without any second thoughts, and you
Right.
can't do that as a married person while still being, I mean, obviously depending on your dynamic, but generally you
Yeah.
can't do that as a married person because it's
Right.
not just you anymore.
Right.
Like,
Someone may say like, I don't care what you do, just make all the damn decisions you want, kind of
yeah,
deal. So that's what I need. Just
yeah.
FYI, I can't. No one. I don't. The thought of considering someone else's uh, no, thank you. Like,
Don't do it unless they're worth it. That's all I gotta
yeah,
say.
that's
Because
it's a
I
lot.
wouldn't do it for anyone else.
It's a big commitment to think of every single like thing or decision or life choice you
Everything.
have to do has to be taken into consideration of another person. That is a big commitment. That is a big responsibility. So there is some truth into her little like interview, I would say.
Yeah.
And not the losing identity, but you do have to do this
I
like
becomes weak.
yes. So
And
I there's some
then
truth to that.
I like how the next guy says too. I thought that was an interesting perspective. When your best friend marries somebody who doesn't like you and you don't get to see them anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's like another dynamic of it. Like that's your person and they come first and
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but
It may change other dynamics in your life, not just, oh, I'm married now, like nothing, everything stays the same. It's just I'm married. Like, no, things may change, so they bring that up. We go back to
yeah.
also a homegirl who's like, oh, it just reminds me of when I was desperate. And she says something along the lines of like, oh, why do people want to stay single and just go around in this stunted adolescence? She's like, why can't people just grow up already and get married? I'm like, what the fuck is stunted adolescence? First of all, and if you're in your 20s or your 30s, that you're in your 20s or your 30s, there's no sense of stunted adolescence. We're not in high school. We're single.
No.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
But it's like comparing maturity to moving on to these stages of life.
Yeah,
Like some people don't think you've truly grown up until you've become a parent, you know,
I can see that. I can see that as
and
someone who doesn't have, who's someone who's single, who doesn't have kids, even though I'm like, I'm not immature, it's like at work or anything, but like, I definitely as seen as like the baby or like the
yeah,
child, or like I'm the youngest one, so they assume, which I
yeah,
get. That's a very fair dynamic, right? Being the youngest person, they're automatically going to assume that. But you do kind of take on this role of like, oh, you're just, oh, boohoo, like, you're young, don't worry, like they almost infantilize, not infantilize, but kind of, they kind
yeah,
of infantilize you
because
of
you
like,
don't have
oh,
your
you're
own
so young.
children.
Right, right.
Yeah,
It's very, It's true. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just it's a funny dynamic because you do feel kind of childlike while being an adult in the same. It does actually. It does kind of feel adolescent-y. You do almost kind of feel like when you're when you're a teenager and they're like you're given the responsibilities of an adult, but like you still have to maintain this kind of like in childlike innocence. That's where I kind of feel
Yeah,
like that sometimes. So
I could
that's
see
just what
that.
I have to juggle.
Yeah, I just like on the other side of it, like being married, like not necessarily
Hmm.
with kids, I don't feel like I'm more mature than you. I don't feel any deeper sense of
Yeah,
maturity,
it's
So
it
it's
it
like it
wasn't.
really isn't like
I
I've
do
we
ask
still, you know,
I do
what?
ask everyone who is married this though. I do say like when you guys say your vows, like when you get married, like does something feel I know this is silly, right? It may sound silly, but like do you feel something? Like does something change? Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like regardless of it, it's a big step, it's different, but like that's a big step. Like does something like it's like
So
when you turn 18 or when you turn 21, it's like a milestone. Like do you kind of like feel that like in your stomach, like oh my god, like things are so much different now?
I think it hits people differently, to be
Differently.
honest. Because, like, in my scenario, when I was proposed to, I had no idea it was going to happen.
We
Like, at all.
were
Literally
planning
earlier
that
in the
shit for like
day.
a year. We planned that shit like a year in advance, just to FYI.
Yeah,
He came
not
to
a
me, he's like,
clue.
he was like, "Is this
Help.
the ring? What? Let's help me. Like, what are we gonna do? Blah blah blah." And here's said ring. We figured that all out. But this was about at least 9 months before he proposed. We were talking
Yeah.
about this. So
So, when he proposed, I had no clue. And I literally was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just like, there's no way. And I said yes, obviously, because I knew he was the one. But I did kind of spend like the whole
a
day just kind
second.
of in the sense of like shock.
Uh huh.
And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like, holy crap, like I'm entering a new stage of my life right
Right.
now. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. But he was just all smiles, all
Oh, I'm
happy
sure.
as could
Oh, he
be.
was so happy.
But then
Yeah.
when the
I guess
wedding
that makes
actually
sense.
happened, I was the one that was bawling and he was the one that was happy as can be. And like
Yeah.
we just like took turns on it. Like when he brought it up, I was like just like wow, like okay, like we're doing this, and he was just like we're doing this, and then it like
Yeah.
switched off. So like I don't know. I forgot what I was talking about,
We
to
were
be
talking
honest
like
with
I was
you.
like, does it feel different? Does something feel
Oh,
different? Like, do
yeah,
you
okay,
get like
so
a
yeah,
visceral feeling
yeah,
of like now
you
I'm
do.
married?
It's
Okay.
more of like when the sense kind of like hits you of like, oh shit, like this
This is
stage
real.
of my life is beginning. Because
Very
like
cool.
to me, it was always like I was a maiden and now I am a married woman, and then the next
Hmm.
stage, if I so choose, is motherhood.
Yeah.
So it's just like those
Yeah, it's like
stages
it's
of
like
like womanhood.
typical milestones people society naturally sees. And I ask people that all the time because I'm always very curious because I've never been married. I have been engaged one time, and even with the engagement it did feel like we didn't never got married, but the engagement felt a little bit more so like okay, we're not just dating, like there's a commitment to each other now, or like this is
Yeah,
what's like this is our next, possibly our next step. And it does feel like these like kind of levels. And so I've always just been curious as someone who's never been married before. It fascinates me. It fascinates me when people get married and have children. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this is so, how cool is that? Like what a milestone. Like how fun is that? So that's what yeah.
yeah,
So theme of the episode, marriage, singleness. So but then we go into the next scene, those little interviews go by,
yes.
and it's Carrie and Stanford actually talking, and they're walking down the street having a little conversation. um
And
and they
then
run
their
into
approach, an old friend of Carrie's, and this friend of Carrie's is a man who
mhm,
the last time she saw him, he was straight, and now he is engaged to his life partner.
yeah.
I don't know about you, But I felt like Carrie and Stanford were so standoffish with this guy. It was just
It
like,
was really strange because
yeah,
Stanford's obviously gay, and he's like, oh, his name is Joe. They run into a guy named Joe, and Carrie's like,
yeah,
oh, like I haven't seen you since, and he goes, since I was straight, and she goes, oh, since you were in Miss Saigon. He's like, still there, you know. He's like, but this is my
yeah.
life partner, so and so, you know, and Stanford kind of makes a dig. He's like, well, where are you registered? And he's like, Barney's, and Stanford's like, oh, I was
I was
kidding, and I was like,
kidding.
why would you? I'm like,
Ew.
what's the big deal, you know? So
Yeah.
it was kind of an awkward scenario, but the what makes it even more awkward is Joe poses the question to, he was like, oh my god, wait, he's like, hold on, we have been wanting a kid, and you know what, I think you would be, we have a surrogate lined up, but
He,
Carrie, I think
I
we
think
need
you
an
would be
egg.
a top-notch
You'd
egg.
be a top-notch egg. And she's like, what the fuck? And so she's kind of just like, and then his partner, like, he's like, here's our card, just give us a call when you
Think
can, when you
about it.
want, we'll think about it, we'll pay you, don't
Right.
worry.
We'll pay you.
So
Yeah.
they leave, and Carrie feels like offended, or what did she say?
Single
She said
bashing from the
something,
new
yes,
millennium.
she feels like she was being single bashed, which I don't see it that way.
And that she's no longer a person but an egg farm,
But right, but I didn't
which I
see it
kind of
that way.
feel with today's standards, but whatever.
Yes and no, but like I thought, for me, like if someone came up to me and asked me that, I would have taken it as a straight up compliment, because like
Right?
I'm like, you want my egg? I'm like, you know me, you want me? I don't know. I'm like, I don't know if you do want it. There's some psychological stuff that you need to consider before procreating this mess. But I would have taken it as a whole ass compliment. It's like when people want me to
Yeah.
be their godmother, like for their kids. I'm like, are you sure? Because it's happened quite some time, like quite often. People are like, no, yeah, I want you to take care of our kid. I'm like, me? Sure, I guess. But you take it as a compliment. You're like, oh wow, I guess people trust me, or they believe I can do this, or I'd be a fine specimen. Who knows? But I don't know.
That's
I
just
don't know.
specimen.
Who cares? It's biological
I
at
know,
some point, you know?
it's just funny. Like,
Because I think of it in they're like, you know, they see this lovely, like, you know, Carrie's has this column, she's funny, she's beautiful, like, you know, she's petite, she has this lovely blonde curly hair, she has pretty eyes, you know, they probably see it as like oh my god, we would love this cute little blonde kid, you know, like
yeah,
that's
because
what
at the
I'm
end of the
thinking of, is like,
day, yeah, at the end of the day, what they're saying is like, I would be happy if my child was like you. And
exactly, and I'm
that's
like,
honestly really
it,
nice. You can decline
yeah,
it because, like, it is a
yeah, you
lot
can
to
easily
think,
say no
like,
thank
there's a
you.
version of me out in the world and I have nothing to do with them. That's, like,
Yeah,
reasonable to say no. Like,
yeah,
you
it's a
just
big
aren't comfortable with
responsibility,
it.
it's a big
But,
responsibility regardless.
yeah, she's just
But
nasty.
yeah, so that happens. Carrie obviously doesn't call them. That just gets, you
Yeah.
know, pushed away. The next scene happens, and we run into Miranda, who's at her work.
Softball game.
Uh, she's at her work softball game, and her one of her coworkers was going to be setting her up. He's like, I have someone perfect for you, they're coming to the game. And he's like, here Miranda, here they are. And we pan over to Sid, who's a lovely lesbian, just a lady sitting there or standing there. And Miranda's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She's like,
She's like, turns around, I'm
hi,
gonna go get something to
I'm gonna
drink.
get a soda. You want something? Go shit. And then she's like, yells at her buddy over there. She's
I'm
like,
not gay.
I'm not gay. He was like, oh, aren't they perfect? And she's like, no. He's like, in 8 months I haven't seen you with a man. And she's like, so now being single is being gay. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting question. Like, so now being single means you're gay?
To be fair though, this still happens because I've like had conversations with my coworkers about like men and dating and like my next steps and what do I want, and like, you know, obviously like sometimes I don't have great luck sometimes, and they're like, Bella, have you ever tried dating women? I was like, is that the solution? So nothing's worked out with men so far, so I'm just supposed to date women now? Is that what this is? So What? Please, please say what you want to say because you're giggling over there.
I just think it's really funny because, like, it kind of goes back to this whole thing where it's like when you're single, because I know I'm not single right now, but I was single for a long time. I didn't start dating till later. Everybody feels like they can set you up, and
Oh
everybody
yeah,
feels like they know better than you do, and that if you just do this thing, then you'll find somebody.
yeah.
And I
Everyone
just
wants
feel
to
like
instill
that
their
is just
wisdom.
like, yeah, and I feel like that's part of it. Well, maybe if you just did this, and it's like maybe if you just like changed your standards, like in the first episode, they're like,
Yeah,
change your standards and then you'll find the person. But it's like that's not what you want,
yeah,
and you deserve what you want.
yeah. And
But
speaking about
this,
setting up,
yeah,
in the next scene, we get Carrie's having dinner with yet another married couple, or she's having lunch with yet
yeah,
another married couple. David and Lisa are her married friends, and they're having a great time. They're like, "Oh, do you want to get married?" She's like, "Yeah, maybe. I don't know, whatever." And they're talking about it, and then, oh, golly gee, surprise! Oh my God, our friend Sean's here. Oh no,
oh
wow!
wow,
Look
look,
who's
it's
here.
Sean.
You have to join us for lunch. And so
Oh wow,
she then recognizes this was a setup, and she's
yeah.
now set up with this man named Sean. And they go and they have dinner, they have coffee, whatever. Um they talk.
But let me see.
And we quickly find out he wants to get married, like, soon. That's like his
Okay,
goal. He talks about it during their little setup. And they're by themselves. The
so
couple has left, and now it's just Carrie and Sean.
can I comment on that?
Yeah.
So before Sean comes into the picture, one
Mm-hmm.
quick thing. They ask her, the couple asks Carrie, "Do you see yourself getting married?" And she says,
Oh,
"I don't think I'm the marrying kind." And then skip back over to where we were. So we're talking to Sean. The couple has left. They have set Carrie up on this date with Sean. And almost immediately into the conversation, she realizes she's on a date with the marrying guy. So we
right.
just
Because it's so
established she's not
rare.
the marrying woman, but
Yeah.
she's
But
now on a date with the rare and sought after marrying guy.
another side note, too. So Carrie herself says, I don't know if I'm the marrying kind. And we're way early on in the series here. But this exact phrase is said by someone later in the series. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing with that scene that I caught now watching it again. I was like, that is the exact phrase that's utilized. I'm like, how interesting. So this is
Yeah,
way down the line, but just a subtle little reminder if you watch the show and if you keep watching with us, that it's very important the way she says it just like that. But yeah, so
I'm
then she
beginning to
realizes,
think I'm not the marrying kind.
right. And she realizes, she's like, wow, this guy actually wants to, like, have commitment and be married, because it is ever so rare apparently during the times. I mean, it still kind of is now, but like, this is, she's like, holy crap, this is like seeing like a zebra.
Just,
Like, it's,
yeah. And they kind of like glaze over the fact that like over the next like couple of weeks, she goes on a few more dates with him. Like they go to the movies a couple times,
yeah,
and they like pan to this scene where they're at the park and they're kissing, and he's like really into it, kissing her
trying to
with
get
his
into
eyes
it.
closed and
Yeah.
everything, and she's just there like,
Yeah. She's very like,
like she's her eyes are
uncomfortable.
open and she's
It's
darting
just very
around.
uncomfortable. She looks very
Yeah,
uncomfortable, and she
and
states she's just kind of trying him on. You know what I found
yeah,
interesting, though? That Sean is the perfect example of something also we find later in the series, which we call the cab theory. I truly think this is the perfect introduction, or like the perfect reference to later on in the series, as what we call the cab theory, meaning a man whose cab light turns on is
it's
when they're
on.
ready to settle down and they're ready to get married and have kids. And it doesn't really essentially matter who it's with. It's just that that man is personally ready to do it. So whoever comes along that kind of just fits right there, that's who he's picking. And that's kind of the theory that's brought up later in the series. I thought he was a perfect example for that because he just recently bought an apartment and he's like, I have my dream apartment. I'm ready. And he's so into Carrie. He's all like, oh my, like just great on these dates. And he's like,
Immediately.
immediately, like, you can see the immediate, like, oh, I want this. This is great. This is everything I've ever wanted, you
He
know,
starts trying to
without
fit her
even,
into the mold.
he's trying to fit her into this mold because that's what he wants so much without even really knowing or getting to know who Carrie truly is. And so that's why I thought it was a
Yeah.
perfect example of this
Or
cab theory.
noticing her uncomfortable
Yeah, or
demeanor.
noticing she is
Like,
not as like
you know, into it
actively
as
in
he
this
is.
like, you know, this dating or relationship or whatever. So
Yeah.
but yeah, and then we pan to the next scene. So they're doing that. They're doing that. They pan to the next scene of Miranda and Sid, who is the name of our lovely lesbian that was set up with Miranda. At the softball game, her senior partner notices them because they worked really great during the softball team. They like scored, what's it called? And this is where,
He did good in the game.
what's it called when you
I
score in
don't know either.
baseball? It's like totally evading me, and I like watch
Home
baseball and
run?
soft. This is so embarrassing.
This is bad. I never claimed I knew anything about baseball.
I've
That
gone
was
to
not
baseball games and have actively watched them, and why I can't think of, like, they won. They won because of the partnership between Sid and Miranda. They
they
scored
had good
something.
chemistry.
They had great
They had
chemistry
good
during the
chemistry.
game. So her senior partner noticed that and was like, "Oh my god, you guys have to come for our dinner party. Me and my wife are having this party. Awesome." And she's like, "Oh, thanks, Mr. So and so." He's like, "Call me Chip, this is great, awesome."
Chip.
And she's like, "Holy shit." She goes, "In the however long I've worked here, he's not even once noticed me, but now that I'm like in
It's
this
Chip.
couple, it's Chip and we're coming over for dinner," and like, what the hell? And so now we pan over to the dinner party that she goes to. Miranda's like, "Yeah, sure, we'd love to go," because she sees it as a career opportunity to be like, I'm gonna get in with the
Yeah.
senior partner and and talk. And so we're here
Poor
at the
Sid's
party.
just like, okay.
She's like, "I guess we're gonna vibe with this." So yeah, so they you can see them go, and then it then pans back to the girls. So the other girls, we have Charlotte, Carrie, and Samantha going to Sean's party, and I think this is like his
Yes.
home, like his housewarming party, right?
Yeah. It
Okay.
seems like it, yeah. Um, and when they get there, it was supposed to be like you can see like they're all excited to go and stuff because obviously like although Carrie's in a couple now, Samantha and Charlotte are still single.
Mm-hmm.
But when they open the door, it's like everybody's a married couple. So it's like
Everyone,
Charlotte and Samantha against the party.
everyone,
And
yeah.
it's just,
So
but not Carrie because everybody, she kind of notices too, like she's not being treated how she normally gets treated at a party. She's being like, they're being more friendly with her. And she's like, I think people feel like I'm figured
I'm
out now because
are
I'm part of a
spoken for,
couple.
right?
Yeah, I'm no
Yeah.
longer possibly gonna fuck your dude. Like,
Yeah, like, I'm here with the guy who's hosting this party, like that's my boyfriend, or like that's my who I'm dating. So they're like, "Oh, how sweet," like, how great.
yeah,
And like they, it's they really
not
try
a
and like
threat.
slam on that dynamic of like, oh, this, not threatening. Um
Yeah, and
this, and
then
we see
they
we see Samantha, she's having a conversation, completely harmless, by the way.
legit, right? Because she's like talking about how her financial advisor is like, my financial advisor said like that's not
Is
a good idea, and
Yeah,
he's
what do
like, well,
you
what are your
think? Or
expectations with your finances? Like literally, like
a
just
very
financial conversation,
just
dry.
normal conversation, which is rare for
Yeah,
Samantha, because almost always when you see Samantha talking to a man, it's because she's trying to get at him. So this is her actually having just a conversation, and
just a
homie's wife comes
conversation.
up and she's like, "So and so needs to talk to us right now. Goodbye." Like, "Oh, hi,
Yeah,
bye."
just like
Being that they try to
I'm
do this
his
like
wife.
they do that stereotypical,
Like,
"Oh, I'm his wife," and I'm like, okay, first of all,
yeah,
chill out. No one's trying to get
yeah,
at him, but I can see that's the theme of what they're trying to portray during this episode, is like, it's this constant like single versus married, or threat versus
yeah.
non-threat, and it's just kind of, it's silly. Obviously we know that's a silly concept, like, I can see why people might feel that way, but it's like, I don't want to screw
Well,
your husband. You know, like,
it's funny because, like, literally just like a week or so ago, I went to a show with my husband, and while I was in the restroom, he was kind of mentioning that, like, he didn't think he could talk to anybody. He didn't feel like he was allowed to. And I
what?
was like, you can talk to people. And
Of
he was like, but what if
course.
a girl comes up to me? And I was just like, there's a right and a wrong way to have a
Yeah.
conversation with the opposite sex, you know? And I was very clear, like, you are more than welcome to talk to them, but like, there's like certain boundaries that
Yeah.
for me, and everybody's different, but
Of
like,
course.
you can have a conversation, and you can
Of
do that
course.
without flirting. You can do that without like making physical contact. Like, your biceps are huge, kiss me, you know?
That
Like,
works.
you can, it does work, and that's why I say don't do it.
It
Um,
works. I promise you. I've done it like at least 3
yeah,
times. That move, like the bend and
yeah.
snap. Bend and snap has never worked for me, but your biceps are huge. Kiss me has
See, bend
worked.
and snap works for me. Okay. But
Interesting.
kiss, like, your biceps are huge, kiss me hasn't worked for me.
That has definitely worked for me.
But we also have very different flirting styles.
Taste. We have different taste in men and people too, so.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also probably why our friendship has lasted so long.
100%.
We just don't go
100%.
after the same dude. Keeps the
No,
peace.
I don't think we've once, have you and I once like been, no, I don't think we've, well, no, I don't know if we've been attracted to the same person. I think like maybe physically, like, oh yeah, they're good looking, but never like we've met the
We've
same person and
never.
we're like, uh-oh, like, what do we do? Like, we both like this person kind of
No,
thing.
yeah, that's never happened. Because I feel like the second I see you have interest in someone, it just like flops off of me.
Yeah, and
Like,
you're
I'm
also
just
kind
like
of
no
like,
longer
yeah,
like.
no.
I was already like
Yeah.
halfway out with the.
Maybe when we
But
were younger
yeah.
and we're a little more frivolous, but like, you know,
No, yeah. Or when we were in high school and there was like 150 people in our class, like,
yeah, we had less than 200 in our graduating class. And
yeah.
like everyone
So that
dated
was it was
everyone
just a
kind of thing.
small pool.
It was a small pool, but I mean, whatever. It was fun.
Wasn't the worst.
It
Anyways,
wasn't the worst. So we're still at
let's
this
see,
party.
where were we at?
Oh, we're
Oh
still at the
yeah,
party.
so
Samantha's
yeah,
upset. So she begins to slam tequila because she's kind of like, she goes, see that guy over there? I fucked him. That one
you
over
see
there,
that one over there?
fucked
I
him
fucked
also.
him.
And I never thought I was going to see those hoes again. But here we are. So she decides to
But
slam
here
some
we
tequila shots to cope with that, I
Yeah.
guess.
And then while that is happening, Carrie and Charlotte go on a house tour with Sean. And if you kind of notice too, Charlotte's more interested in what he's got going on than
Very
Carrie
much
is.
so. You can definitely see because,
Like,
well, one, that's Charlotte's, like, Charlotte's geared towards getting married. So the fact that there's a
she's
man
the marrying kind.
very willingly saying, I want to get married, here's, like, I'm making a life. He literally takes the girls into his room and says, I know this is an office right now, but I want this to be the nursery. And
I'm gonna put a baby in here.
he brings out a little mobile. He's like, I purchased this. Isn't this precious? Like, I can't wait. And Charlotte's
What
like,
did he purchase it
huh?
in, like, Austria or
Yeah,
something like
Charlotte's
that?
like,
Like some
oh,
European country. Oh wow. With
and
like
then
little
Carrie's
angels.
face. Carrie's
Just
like,
like,
disgusted. And Charlotte's like, oh, gee,
oh.
oh, goodness.
I'm
So
not
you
gonna
just
lie,
see
that I
how
feel
they're,
like that's yeah.
that is me and you 100%.
Yeah,
I am
that's what I was just
Charlotte and you are
thinking.
Carrie
Yeah. I'm just
100%.
here like,
Yeah. Anytime I'm like, oh my God, but he said this, you're like, ugh. And I'm like, but
but also it
uh,
works the other way too.
that is true. Because
But
sometimes I hear
I'll be
things, I'm
like,
like,
oh, he
oh,
did
what the?
this, and you're like, what? Are you gonna leave?
I'm like, are you gonna? I'm
Like,
like, how
are you
dare
good?
he?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, very equal
Man.
trade off there. But yeah, so this is what's happening during the party. So
And some people read palms. Charlotte reads real estate.
yeah, because she says
She's
that, because then
really
she
into.
goes up to Carrie and she's like, he's gonna ask you to
Yeah.
marry him,
She's like,
like
no, he's not.
100%.
And she said, yes, he is because what did
No
do
guy,
you
no
remember?
guy purchases some like an
On the Upper
apartment on
East Side.
Upper East Side who doesn't want to get
Yeah,
married, you know.
yeah, who isn't trying to like, yeah. And then I thought this part was funny too. So, it like pans over to Carrie talking to one of the couples in the party, and they're like telling
This
her
is
like, dude,
funny.
you're making a good decision. Like
Sean's a great guy.
he's a great guy. He has his own business and he has 300K in the bank. And
Yeah,
then
he's
I
great
was
with
just like
kids.
curious while I was watching this. I like paused it and was like, "Hey Siri, how much was 300K worth back in 1998?" That it was 577,000. It was over half a
Not
million
bad.
now.
Not
No, not
bad.
bad at all.
I
Not
forgot
bad
what
at
he
all.
did. I forgot what his job was. I don't remember if they
I
allude to that
forgot
or
to,
not.
yeah.
But yeah, so
But he got
obviously
money.
he's wealthy. He has a good head on his shoulders. He wants children. Everyone thinks he's a great
And
guy.
then and then two of his friends are like, "We've slept with him. He's good." What?
They're like, "Oh, he's great in bed." And
He's
Carrie spits
great.
out her drink. She's like, "What the fuck?" I don't know what I would do in that scenario. I don't.
Yeah, if I was somewhere and like I
That's
ran into a woman and she's like, "That's your husband?" Oh, he's great in bed. I'd be like
I don't think I've ever been in that scenario. I don't know how I would react
speechless.
in that scenario.
I think I would just
I feel like,
evaporate.
hold on. I feel like I have been the woman to be like, oh, he's great. I think I've done,
What?
I feel like that's recently happened, maybe within the past like 2 years. Anyway,
I mean,
I
you know what? You are a
just
girl's
remembered
girl,
something.
right?
I am a girl's girl. I'm not going to deny it. I will never lie. So you got to be careful
No.
what you do with me because I'm going
Yeah.
to give it to them straight. I'm going to be like, that was great or that was fucking bullshit.
Could use improvement. Oh man.
Oh, God.
Oh, and then speaking of next scene pulls up Patience.
Patience and Peter from the
And
first
Peter are
scene
at the party.
roll up to the party and they're like, oh God, Carrie's like, Patience, Peter, oh my God, we just saw you guys. What the hell? And she's like, I'm so sorry about the thing. And Patience is like, don't bring it up.
Yeah,
It's okay.
don't even mention it.
Don't
Don't
even
mention
mention
it.
it. And Carrie's like,
Don't even mention
and
it.
she's like, don't mention it. Cut that shit out.
Shut the fuck up.
And Carrie's like, oh God. And then Samantha rolls up and she's like, this is my friend, Patience and Peter. And Samantha's like, wait, hold on. And Samantha's fucked up. She's
Lit.
drunk as
She
shit
had
right now.
so many tequila shots.
So
Like
many
all this
tequila
time,
shots.
she's been
So
slamming
she's
tequila
just like
shots.
giddy walking over. She's like, hold on. I think I've heard about you. She goes, oh, big peppermint? Which is one of my favorite lines in the entire series. She's just like, that's
Big
you.
peppermill dick.
Big peppermill dick.
And here
And
he is again, just
he's happy as a clam.
he's
He's
smiling.
laughing, and Patience is mortified while her
Mortified.
husband's just like,
Just like,
ha ha. Like, of course, like he's gonna feel great. He's like, look, another woman knows how large I am, you know?
yeah.
And it's just so funny. And they're like, okay, we
Oh,
need to get Samantha out of here.
think I would be able to sleep with my husband ever again if he acted like that in public. Jesus.
No, I like that. I like the whole, because
Okay,
it'd be one thing
come
if he
on.
was sleeping
Like,
with other women. It'd be one thing if he was just like, if he wasn't sleeping
Bella,
with anyone. He's just wanting to show
Bella,
off. What?
okay, but like, if you were married
Okay.
and I was spending the
Hypothetically
night,
speaking. Okay.
yeah, and you went to the store, well, actually, that's not very realistic. You would like DoorDash it.
I would DoorDash
Um,
everything, so that actually would never happen.
if you were in the restroom taking a shower
Okay.
and I was going to the kitchen and your husband was just like dick out, just like,
It'd be one thing if he was like wanting to sleep with you. If he was like, if he was
but
like,
if he
oh,
was
just
just there, like, look at it, it'd be fine. It's like, man.
I don't know. I mean, I've never been in this scenario, but then again, me and nudity
Yeah,
are very like, I'm very
that's
like
true.
open with shit like that. I'm very like, oh god, whatever. You know, it pays no mind to me as a nurse. You truly you get like nude blindness. Like I'm serious. Like it's the weirdest thing. Like I don't even notice
Nude
it. I'll just be
blindness.
like, I'm like, oh okay. Like no big deal, right? Like to like, take off your pants. Like, oh, you got something? You want me to check it out? Like, yeah, drop trow, dude. Like, let me see it. But then again, that's just me, and I'm not fucking married,
Yeah.
so who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
We love
Next
this
scene.
episode.
I know, right? Big peppermill dick. Um, Miranda and Sid at the dinner. Well, like right
Yeah.
after.
So we
They're
pan
on their
back to
way
them.
out. Yeah, and they're on their way out from the dinner, and obviously, like, looked like it went really good. But right as she's about to enter the elevator, Miranda lets him know, like, I'm not a lesbian. My bad. You know, I just wanted to be your friend and get your ear. And he's
No, she
like,
wants to
only thing
pitch
that,
her work ideas. She was like, I'm trying to
yeah.
get a promotion
I'm
here.
trying to get a promotion. And she
Yeah.
like lets him know openly and honestly, and he's like, wow, shrewd move, but I respect that.
Yeah. Shrewd move,
Um,
counselor. Yeah, you know.
yeah. And then the only thing he says is like, my wife's gonna be disappointed. She wanted a lesbian couple in our
She
circle.
really wanted a lesbian couple, and she's like, oh.
That's like her
How
token
interesting.
gay
Yeah, she
LGBTQ
wanted a
present.
token gay couple, which is you know,
Yeah.
not the worst thing. People could be worse. People can be actually nasty. She was like, "You know what? I think we need a lesbian couple. My friends would appreciate that I'm being inclusive." Honestly, fuck it. Fuck it. You're going to be nice to them. You're going to invite them to dinner parties. They're going to be like, "It's just our
Feed
little
them.
lesbian couple." Feed them, drink,
Yeah.
wine and dine. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
I'll be the token
Man.
lesbian. Let's go.
Anyways.
What
Um
I don't have any preference. I'll be a token lesbian. I'll be a token whatever the fuck you want me to be. Let's go. Let's go. Rent me out for dinner
but
parties. What? Not like prostitution. Nothing.
dance, like, sing,
What?
out the food, like, what are you
Hand out
doing?
the food. What are you talking about?
You're like, it's not prostitution, but I am for hire. What are you doing?
Like being like a stunt double
Like an
for like
escort? Or
no, I'm being like the stunt double like Sid was. She was pretending they were
um
together. What the fuck did you think I was saying?
so I don't know, that's why I was asking. I had no clue where that was
We
going. I was
both
trying to
went like
understand.
here.
Like,
Yeah. I was like,
not
that's
knowing
a
what the
mark. If that's a market, I'll do it. That's all I was saying.
I think it is actually. I have
Yeah.
seen like stuff like that where you can like hire somebody to be a bridesmaid and things like that.
That is no,
I
that's a real
think
thing.
that is something you would specifically be good
they
at,
have
like
they have
maid of
mock
honor
weddings
kind
and
of thing.
stuff too. They do yeah, like other than that, like hire the bridesmaid stuff, they do mock weddings, like for people who want to like
What?
party. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
Oh,
Apparently, like that's the thing, like, oh, we're going to a wedding, but it's a fake wedding. I just recently heard about my coworker said something like that, and I was like, what the hell? And I think she went to one or something. So
why not
I don't
just go to
know.
the club?
It's a
Is
different kind
that a
of
dumb
party
question?
though. You know, it's a different kind of like
Yeah.
vibe. It's not a club, it's a
Do
wedding.
they have like? Okay.
They have like a fake
Okay.
bride and groom and all that shit. So, I don't
Okay.
know.
I want to
Let's
be
ask
that.
the
I want to be the
audience.
bride.
Let's
Yeah.
ask the
Does
audience
anybody
here.
know about this, or
Does
has anybody
anyone
been to one
know?
of these?
Yeah, a mock wedding or like a fake wedding that's just a party. I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. I've heard about it. Seems interesting to
I
me,
would
but no,
like to
I
be
said the same
educated
thing.
on this.
I would love to be a bride, right? Because I've always wanted a wedding. I've always wanted to get married. I don't think that's in the cards for me. We'll see. But
You're not the marrying kind?
I'm not saying that I'm not the marrying kind. I don't think it's going to work out for me. I just really don't. I really don't. My level of like I don't know if I can like uh what's that word? Compromise? See, I don't even know what the fucking word is. I don't know if my level of that is suitable for someone. I just what is so funny over there? What is so hee hee ha ha hilarious over there? I would like to know. Looky here.
Hey, I love you exactly how you are.
I've spent the last 10 years in relationships on and off, and I feel like I should spend the next 10 years not in relationships. That's how I
Yeah,
feel. I need
you
some
know,
time. Maybe
I
one day.
say don't do it until you want to,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because obviously you got other stuff going on.
Yeah. Like this fucking amazing podcast that everyone's listening to right now. Hell yeah. Just gonna plug that real quick.
Okay, so back to what we were talking about. So, um, Miranda kind of takes this moment to kind of like test the waters. So she kisses Sid
To see. Maybe I
just
am a
to
little
see,
gay. Who
you
knows?
know, but no,
Nope.
she pulls
No
back and is like,
sparks.
definitely straight. Sid's like, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
But no, personally, I just think that that wasn't her type.
I
That
think so too. I know obviously
because
like
as we learn later,
we're not going to
anyways,
spoil anything for anyone.
yeah, no.
But
Anyways,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, so she's not gay,
Oh,
and
she's
the
not
lesbian
gay.
confirms it.
And then we go back to Carrie and
To
Sean. So
Carrie.
the party's ended, everyone's left. Carrie's putting on her coat and Sean's like, "Oh, I thought you would stay the night," and she's like, "I guess I have to break it to him." And she's like,
Yeah,
"Look, Sean, I've just been
but
trying you out. Like,
I
I don't
feel like
think
this was a really nice way to put it, though.
it
Like,
was. It was.
she's
She
like,
wasn't being
it just didn't
disrespectful.
fit,
It just didn't fit. You
you
just
know?
it's and
Yeah,
that's fine because you meet someone you think you like,
yeah,
oh, this is kind of nice, but like everyone knows
yeah,
deep down like yes or no. And
yeah. Cause
she knew
like,
pretty early
you
on.
don't wanna. I feel like sometimes people think that because there's nothing explicitly wrong, that it's not a good reason to break up with
Yeah.
them.
I see that
But
a
in
lot.
scenarios like this, when there's just no,
There's
you
no
know,
spark. There's no spark.
yeah,
There's no
there's no like,
attraction.
I
There's
need
no
you,
yeah,
none of
and
that. She
you need
literally like,
desire.
yeah,
You
and
need
it's in
desire, you need
whatever
longing in a
way that means to
relationship.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like
Yeah.
that was very
Oh,
sweet.
I'm sorry.
But
The word
then,
I wanted to use was yearning. You need to yearn for a
yeah,
person
yearning.
for it to
I think
work.
that's true.
That's the word I wanted to
Yeah.
use. Yeah, there was none
But
of
then,
that
like,
between Carrie and Sean.
well, it was one way, but not the other.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, then this conversation, like, this next part made me cringe
Me
really
too.
hard.
Thank you. I'm not
Like,
the only one
I
here.
was,
Because what does he
and she's so
say?
sympathetic with it. And, anyways, I wrote it down because I was like, he said, I don't understand you women. All
That's
I
what I
hear
wrote down
is,
too.
I want to get married, I want to get married, and none of you says yes. What the fuck? And you know what he just said here?
Whew. What?
He's asked multiple women to marry him and they said no.
Yeah, or like he dates the way he's been dating Carrie, and they say the same thing. They like decline it
Yeah,
before it gets serious because it's just
yeah,
not
because
a match. Why do you want to marry someone who doesn't want to marry you? Like
thank you.
that's what it is.
No,
But
like,
that's why we go
wait.
back to the cab theory because he's like, what the fuck? I'm ready. You're telling me there's not a swarm of women who were like originally into me for the past 15 years? What the fuck? What now that I'm ready, no one's here for me? I'm like, guess what, homie? Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and but anyways, but although it's not Carrie, she's like, I know somebody who would be good for you though. And
Obviously, and we kind
so,
of seen that early in the episode.
yeah,
She
as we
then
kind of
pitches
alluding
Charlotte.
to it, Charlotte, and they go out for a little while, and they kind of
This is
mention it
so
did get like a little bit serious. So like
yeah.
it started off with like casual dating, and then they got close enough to start like shopping for things together, like
Mm-hmm.
China. Like for those of you who
Dinner
don't know,
china. Yeah. Fancy dinner
fine
plates.
China is
Fine
like an
china.
entire fancy dinner plate set that matches, and it's extremely expensive, especially
Yes.
like the kind that they're looking at. So they're looking at these play sets, and like I don't feel like China is any kind of like big deal nowadays, but back then, I feel like when I was young, I remember it being a lot bigger than it is because
I
even
don't
my
think
parents
in
had China.
I don't think in our tax bracket it's important. I think in other people's it still is.
That's true. That's true. I
I
forget. I'm
strive
in the
to
paper plate tax bracket.
I strive to be in the China bracket. I want that shit. If you have a boat, talk to me after the podcast. Summer is coming up, and I would like to be on a boat. Leave me alone. I'm just kidding.
I am letting you do it. But uh, so they look at the sets, and it's the cutest thing.
It's the funniest
He
little
points
like
out this he
setup.
points out the China set that he wants, and it's like this very bold, very like intense
It's kind of loud.
design on it, and it's very loud, and it's like a plate that he wants to get,
Yeah.
and Charlotte just goes. She breaks up with him right there.
She said,
She's
"Are you
leaving.
serious?"
Yeah, she's like, "Are you serious?" And she breaks it off with him because
That
he was
right then and
American
there.
classic and she was French country. It
And
would
that was
never
like
work.
that was the cutest little like send
But
off of that idea,
yeah,
even though there's two people who want to get married so bad, it just
yeah,
doesn't work because it just doesn't click. You're just not meant
it
for
just
each other.
doesn't.
You don't
And
mesh.
that's okay.
That is
That's
totally
okay.
okay. You don't have
Like,
to make each other
I,
fit. You don't have
no,
to like
even
puzzle
if
piece
like,
force each other.
yeah, because if you have to force it, it just doesn't
It's never going to
work.
work. It's never going to work the way you want it
Yeah.
to.
And I do appreciate that, like, she didn't try to change him. She didn't try to point at her point of view. She saw that he was naturally like this. This is who he is. She's like, we don't mesh. So,
Yeah, it
never
just
mind.
didn't work.
And that's a part of Charlotte's dating style that I always
Mm-hmm.
appreciated. She had standards that were here,
Right.
and almost, I'm not going to say never, but almost never in the show. She never dips.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
I
even
do
when she does
appreciate
dip,
that with her.
she goes right back to it and is
She
like,
goes
no,
right back.
I know what I want. Yeah.
Yes.
And I
Oh,
do think that that is a huge component as to
I
why her
think so
dating life
too.
went the way it did.
Quick side note too, we did forget this one little character drop. So remember, Samantha was super
Oh,
fucked up, and Charlotte takes her home. So at the
so
party,
yeah. So
Charlotte takes her
after Big
home
Peppermill Dick,
after Big
Charlotte
Peppermill
escorts
Dick.
her back to Charlotte's apartment.
And so Samantha, they walk in the door. There's a door guy there. He, opens the door for them. And she's just like, ooh. And I think Samantha set her eyes on someone. So then we pan a couple hours later, Carrie narrates something
I
along the
like
lines of
you.
like, she's like, it's 5 a.m. Samantha wakes up still drunk and still wanting something. So she does the most classic move I think ever. It's one of my favorite moves, like seeing in like any media movie. I've seen this happen a couple of times. She walks out with the trench coat and she's like, she goes up to the door guy, same guy. She's like, do you have a cigarette? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course. And when she asks for a light, she just opens that trench coat and she is just
Braun
in this
underwear.
badass, like black, just bra and underwear
Black trench
set.
coat, black bra and underwear
She
set.
fucking
Like,
set of abs
stunning.
that can just like, like she
Those
looks
like 1998 abs
She
that were
looks
like,
incredible. And he does the hottest thing. I'm sorry. If you want to go see the hottest thing a man can ever do to entice a woman, I want you to go watch this episode, please, for the love of God. Because he does one of those things where he's like he has
oh
to
yeah,
cover his mouth because he's like in that much awe of the scenario or how hot this scenario is. And he like does a mouth rub and let me tell you, that would get me fucking going. So so then they start to kiss and she's like, come on, let's go. And he's like, oh no, I can't, like I'm working. She's like, come on.
just like,
And he
let's
goes,
go.
yeah, she's like, let's go. And so they go upstairs, they do their thing. And then later in the night, Charlotte wakes up because she hears a noise or something, and we see Tommy, that's the name of the door guy, in his boxers, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry,
In
miss."
Charlotte's apartment.
In Charlotte's apartment, I'm so sorry, miss. I was just leaving. Oops, sorry. And she's like, "I'm gonna go in there, and when I get out, you better be gone.
You won't be here, and we
You
will
won't be
never speak
here
of this again."
again."
I'm gonna use that at some point because that was a good line.
And then later on, so now we're back to where we were. So after this whole Carrie and Sean talking thing too, we do see Charlotte go. Charlotte's going back into her apartment. This is a separate day, and Tommy's like, "What happened with your friend? She said she was gonna call, and she didn't." And she's like, "I don't know. Like,
I don't
leave me
know.
the fuck alone. Like, I don't know what
Yeah,
Samantha's
like,
doing." That's Samantha.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a
ain't gonna
side note. I
happen.
forgot we had to mention that because it was such a funny little like ploy for Samantha, like her just getting what she wants. And
Yeah. And then we end the episode with Carrie comparing. I thought this comparison was a little bit much, but she compares the fight between married people and single people to the fight that was the war that was
the
going on
war
in
in
Ireland
Northern
at the time.
Ireland.
Yeah. And so
I
she
think
sums it up.
I think she only mentions that because Tommy's Irish. And I think it plays in because remember he goes, "Miss, I was so lonely. I needed someone to be around." He has this Irish accent, and I think she only alludes to that because of like they're chiming in, like alluding to Tommy like being like from Ireland and like he was lonely because he's in this new country, you know, kind of thing. I think that's why she mentions the whole Northern Ireland thing. At least that's what I thought the writers did. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so she does mention that, and which is a little extreme. I think that's definitely
a bit much.
It's a bit much, but that was kind of the whole point of this episode, you know.
Where I do agree is where she ends up with that statement is that we're basically all the same, but we wound up on different sides.
Yeah.
And so I wholeheartedly agree with that because, like, you know, you and I have been friends now for
almost 15 years. Yeah.
Almost 15 years. And it's always been us. And like you said earlier, relationships in the past 10 years have come and gone. You and I have always been here.
Yeah.
And that just is kind of the thing is like, we are the same people that we were. I just happen to be married and you just happen to not be married at this time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and that's
it really kind of is this thing of like, we're not that different.
Yeah, she ends the note on that too. She's like, "Well, you know what you can always do is go to the movies with your girlfriends." And
that you see them fun.
You see them walk into the theater together. They're having a grand old time.
Yeah.
And that's
the
how
last
the episode...
time you and I went to the movies, do you remember we saw Easy A together?
That was on my birthday last year. We had a blast. That was really fun. Yeah, I love going to the movies, so that was a blast.
And it really was.
It's really something. Like, regardless of your situation, regardless of your status, you always have your girlfriends, which is kind of the theme of our podcast, which is why it's called Each Other's Soulmate.
Each Other's Soulmate. Because men can come and go, but we're always going to be here for each other.
We're always going to have each other.
This feminine love that you have for your girlfriends of like, I'm here for you. I got you, bitch. Like, and it's like, no matter what, we're always here for each other.
Yeah, it's definitely a different level of like commitment in a friendship sense, you know. And then I think platonic soulmates are a real thing too. I really think that does happen. So I like how they also end the episode with "Respect" by Aretha Franklin playing at that, you know, "Oh, I'm just here with my girls," and like they ended on that note. I love when they play like actual like songs instead of just like royalty music or like stuff. So I thought that was cute that they ended it with that song. But yeah, that's pretty much sums up season 1, episode 3, Bay of Pigs. That was our lovely Bay of Married Pigs. That was our take. So it's a very interesting episode. This episode has a lot of dynamics, kind of like our episode 1 had a lot of plot lines. I feel like episode 3 had a lot a lot of back and forth, a lot of new people again, and so this one had a lot. This was a heavy thing, but the whole big chunk of it all was this whole single v married concept and kind of going through that. I think this is a really fun episode. I think the concepts are fun. Seeing the girls come into like their like, you see more of their personalities come out and like their quirkiness come out in this episode a bit.
Yeah.
So oh yeah, never mind. I mean, I was just thinking to the point too.
What?
I totally forgot. Like, I didn't remember. Miranda has this like big cynicism kick the entire time that we forgot to mention. She's all like, "Married people are the enemy. Fuck them." You know how many times like
Yeah.
she says that throughout the show. We forgot to say that, but she's very
She's the
like,
bitter
ugh,
one.
whatever. She's a little bitter about it, and that's kind of her. But that's also kind of her trope. She's the more like bitter, cynical thing, as we've mentioned
Pessimistic.
before, pessimistic. But we start to see more of their quirkiness and more of their just little things that make
Yeah.
them in this episode. So, but yeah, so that's it. So yeah, here we go. We got through the third episode. We will hope to come back for next week for season 1, episode 4. So if you're watching along, thank you. People have said,
Thanks
"Oh,
so
hey,
much.
I'm rewatching the show. I'm watching along with you guys," or
Yay!
like,
Yeah.
or like, "I'm watching it for the first time. I want to get caught up," or "Oh, I've been watching it. I've been rewatching it to listen to you guys," and like that's amazing.
Means the world to us.
We can't thank you enough for the people who do listen and the people who do just interact with us at all. Any kind of interaction is awesome. Any kind of listen, any kind of like, any kind of anything it's been
Tell
really
us what
cool
you
because
think.
yeah, we're just two girls up here talking about our favorite show. We wanted to talk about it with you guys and see if ever we vibe with it. We're having a great time. We want to talk more with you guys. So please comment, please ask questions, put whatever. Even if you're like, "Oh, don't talk about that shit anymore." Like, say something,
Yeah, no, tell us
we
for
always
real.
we definitely welcome the feedback. It's been really fun. We're excited to keep going just as always. So every week is the goal. But yeah, so it's been great. You guys are great. So if you made it to the end, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Watching for an hour or listening for an hour, that's takes some time. That takes
That's a
some
yeah.
dedication and sacrifice. So thank you so much if you did. Even if you listen for 10 minutes, even if you listen for 60 seconds, 5 seconds, thank you so much regardless. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. This was season 1, episode 3 of Each Other's Soulmate, and we will catch you again next week. So thank you so
See you
much.
next
Bye,
week.
guys.
Bye.